ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां। जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां। जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां। जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां। जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां। जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां। जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
श्री गणेश पाहि मां।
करुणारमण श्री गुरुदेवा।
करुणारमण श्री गुरुदेवा।
करुणारमण श्री गुरुदेवा।
करुणारमण श्री गुरुदेवा।
शेषारमण सद्गुरुदेवा।
शेषारमण सद्गुरुदेवा।
शेषारमण सद्गुरुदेवा।
शेषारमण सद्गुरुदेवा।
करुणारमण श्री गुरुदेवा।
करुणारमण श्री गुरुदेवा।
भवभयहरण श्री साई देवा।
भवभयहरण श्री साई देवा।
भवभयहरण देवा।
गुरु है सतचित आनंद देवा।
आनंद देवा श्री साई 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 देवा।
करुणारमणा श्री गुरुदेवा।
दुर्गा भवानी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
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 काली कपालिनी 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 माँ जय जय साई माँ।
दुर्गा भवानी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
दुर्गा भवानी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
परम शिवानी 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 माँ जय जय साई माँ।
जगदोधारिणी 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 माँ जय जय साई माँ।
दुर्गा भवानी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
दुर्गा भवानी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
काली कपालिनी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
काली कपालिनी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
दुर्गा भवानी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
दुर्गा भवानी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
परम शिवानी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
परम शिवानी माँ जय जय साई माँ।
जगदोधारिणी 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 माँ जय जय साई माँ।
दुर्गा भवानी माँ जय जय साई माँ। नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम येषु बुद्ध महावीर
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 सर्वधर्म प्रिय साई देवाय
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 नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम येषु बुद्ध महावीर
राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम येषु बुद्ध महावीर
सर्वधर्म प्रिय साई देवाय
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 नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय श्री वेणुगोपाल कृष्ण श्री वेणुगोपाल
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
माधवा केशवा हरिनारायण
माधवा केशवा हरिनारायण
माधवा केशवा हरिनारायण
माधवा केशवा हरिनारायण
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
श्री वेणुगोपाल कृष्ण
श्री वेणुगोपाल कृष्ण
श्री वेणुगोपाल कृष्ण
श्री वेणुगोपाल कृष्ण
माधवा मधुसूदना नारायण
माधवा मधुसूदना नारायण
माधवा मधुसूदना नारायण
माधवा मधुसूदना नारायण
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
माधवा केशवा हरिनारायण
माधवा केशवा हरिनारायण
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
श्री वेणुगोपाल कृष्ण
श्री वेणुगोपाल कृष्ण
श्री वेणुगोपाल कृष्ण
श्री वेणुगोपाल कृष्ण
माधवा मधुसूदना नारायण
माधवा मधुसूदना नारायण
माधवा मधुसूदना नारायण
माधवा मधुसूदना नारायण
कृष्ण राम गोविन्द नारायण
शिरडी साई द्वारकमाई प्रशान्तिवासी साई राम
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 साई राम साई राम एक नाम सुंदर नाम
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 शिरडी साई द्वारकमाई प्रशान्तिवासी साई राम
शिरडी साई द्वारकमाई प्रशान्तिवासी साई राम
अल्लाह ईश्वर साई राम
ईश्वर साई राम
अल्लाह ईश्वर साई राम रक्षा करो हे भगवान।
दया करो कृपा करो रक्षा करो हे भगवान।
दया करो कृपा करो रक्षा करो हे भगवान।
दया करो कृपा करो रक्षा करो हे भगवान।
शिरडी साई द्वारक माई प्रशांति वासी साई राम।
शिरडी साई द्वारक माई प्रशांति वासी साई राम।
साई राम साई राम एक नाम सुंदर नाम।
साई राम एक नाम सुंदर नाम।
अल्लाह ईश्वर साई राम।
ईश्वर साई राम।
परतिपुरी के हे भगवान।
परतिपुरी के हे भगवान।
दया करो कृपा करो रक्षा करो 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 हे भगवान।
शिरडी साई द्वारक माई प्रशांति वासी साई राम।
जय जय हनुमान जय हनुमान।
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 मारुति राया जय हनुमान।
मारुति राया जय हनुमान।
महानुभावा जय हनुमान।
महानुभावा जय हनुमान।
वायुकुमारा जय हनुमान।
वायुकुमारा जय हनुमान।
वानरवीरा जय हनुमान।
वानरवीरा जय हनुमान।
अंजनी पुत्रा जय हनुमान।
अंजनी पुत्र जय हनुमान।
अति बलवंता जय हनुमान।
अति बलवंता जय हनुमान।
श्री रामदूता जय हनुमान।
श्री रामदूता जय हनुमान।
श्री राम भक्ता 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 जय हनुमान।
जय जय हनुमान 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 जय हनुमान।
मारुति राया जय हनुमान।
मारुति राया जय हनुमान।
महानुभावा जय हनुमान।
महानुभावा जय हनुमान।
वायुकुमारा जय हनुमान।
वायुकुमारा जय हनुमान।
वानरवीरा जय हनुमान।
वानरवीरा जय हनुमान।
अंजनी पुत्रा जय हनुमान।
अंजनी पुत्र जय हनुमान।
अति बलवंता जय हनुमान।
अति बलवंता जय हनुमान।
श्री रामदूता जय हनुमान।
श्री रामदूता जय हनुमान।
श्री राम भक्ता जय हनुमान।
श्री राम भक्ता जय हनुमान।
श्री राम भक्ता जय हनुमान,
श्री राम भक्ता जय हनुमान, जय जय हनुमान,
जय हनुमान।
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे,
हर गंगे हर हर गंगे,
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे,
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे।
हे नटराजा हे शिव राजा हर 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 गंगे,
हे नटराजा हे शिव राजा हर 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 गंगे,
हे नटराजा हे शिव राजा हर 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 गंगे,
हे नटराजा हे शिव राजा हर 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 गंगे,
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे,
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे।
पर्तिपुरीश्वरा जय गंगाधरा,
पर्तिपुरीश्वरा जय गंगाधरा,
पर्तिपुरीश्वरा जय गंगाधरा,
पर्तिपुरीश्वरा जय गंगाधरा।
हर 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 गंगे,
हर 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 गंगे,
हर 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 गंगे,
हर 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 गंगे।
शंकरा शिव शंकरा शिव शंकर शंकर साई,
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 शंकरा शिव शंकरा शिव शंकर शंकर साई।
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे,
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे,
हे नटराजा हे शिव राजा हर 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 गंगे,
हे नटराजा हे शिव राजा हर 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 गंगे,
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे,
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे।
पर्तिपुरीश्वरा जय गंगाधरा,
पर्तिपुरीश्वरा जय गंगाधरा,
हर 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 गंगे,
हर 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 गंगे।
शंकरा शिव शंकरा शिव शंकर शंकर साई,
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 शंकरा शिव शंकरा शिव शंकर शंकर साई।
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे।
भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, हरि भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, हरि नाम बिना, हरि भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, जप जान बिना तन योग नहीं, जप जान बिना प्रभु दर्श बिना प्रज्ञान नहीं, भगवान बिना कोई अपना नहीं, हरि नाम बिना परमात्मा नहीं, हरि नाम बिना परमात्मा नहीं, हरि भजन बिना शांति नहीं, हरि भजन बिना हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, हरि भजन बिना हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, हरि भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, सुख शांति नहीं, सुख शांति नहीं।
Om Shri Sai Ram. It is indeed a blessings of Bhagwan that today I am once again able to reach Chennai. I remember my first, meeting in Chennai, Sundaram on 26th August last year. And today once again, Bhagwan has been gracious on me to call me through virtual portal at Chennai. As we all know, and it is very easy for us to know, that the only reason why we have come to Bhagwan is that Bhagwan himself has called us to his lotus feet. Perhaps we on our own have no merit. We on our own have no qualification or distinction to be here. Bhagwan used to say, with me, you are hero. Otherwise, you are all zeros. So, all of us have one thing in common, Bhagwan. All of us have only one thing with us, Bhagwan's name on our lips. It is indeed our great fortune that we are contemporaries of Avatar, Sri Satya Sai Avatar. We have been able to know him. Not only this, we have been able to hear him. We have been able to see him, touch him. And above all, we are now under the umbrella of Satya Sai organization, which is founded by Bhagwan himself. Never ever in the history of humanity, an avatar founded an organization to enable his devotees to work under his name. So he has given us his name, which is one of the most fortunate things for all of us in his life, in our life. I remember that when I was to join Sri Satya Sai Bal Vikas, first day, the Bal Vikas Guru told me that if you have to attain Bhagwan, you will have to develop a relationship with him. And for this purpose, you are required to give up something. You're required to sacrifice something. At that time, perhaps it was not my age to understand the word sacrifice. I told my teacher that I used to listen to radio songs and I stopped listening to the songs. But perhaps as Bhagwan had already declared, you take one step towards me and I will take 10 towards you. So Bhagwan always remains on his promise. But not to our knowledge, sometimes he far exceeds his promise. He takes 100 steps towards us. Because many a times we are caught in the quagmire. And he is the one who comes and rescues us, takes us out. It so happened that my father has not been keeping too well physically. So in 1977, my mother, myself and my sister, we came to Parthi, and our father was all alone in the house at Chandigarh. One day it so happened that in the evening, late evening, he was about to sleep. But he had a lot of discomfort, pain in abdomen, etc. So at that time, it occurred to him that he was all alone. There was no one around him. And he had started telling that in this crucial hour, even my family is not with me. My wife and my children have also gone. And while so thinking, he was half asleep when suddenly from the ventilator in his room, in his bedroom, he saw some form coming down towards him. So he was slightly taken aback. By this time, that form was leaning over him and asking him, "What has happened to you?" So he explained that I had a lot of discomfort, abdomen pain for many months now. And then the form says, "Why are you blaming your wife and children? They are with me. They have asked me to come and attend to you." And my father recalls that by this time he slept off. He did not remember anything thereafter. But next morning, when he got up, he found his full body was strewn with vibhuti. He saw pug marks of vibhuti, footsteps, even on the wall, leading right up to the ventilator. So immediately what he did, he closed down the room. He did not use that room thereafter. And when we all returned back from Parthi, to our great surprise, he opened the room and showed vibhuti marks to all of us. This was the first tryst with Swami which I as a child had seen. And as we know, our Swami, our Lord, is Apad Bandhvaya. He himself comes to us. He himself tells us how we can reach near and dear to him. One thing which he has taught all of us, and we all know it, is that in this avatar, we have all to be near and dear to Swami. Whatever we do, whatever activity we are doing, whatever profession we are pursuing, whatever task we are undertaking, it should be aimed at only one thing, that we have to be near and dear to our Lord. For that, He alone helps us. But we also have to make sincere efforts from our side that we do not deviate from the path of Swami. So, in 1981, Bhagwan took me to Sevadal, and from there on, there was a feeling that Bhagwan should call me to Parthi one day to be a student. But the life was always full of hiccups, full of jolts, because youth is one period where Bhagwan has said, Brahmachari Shat Markataha, that we are having a mind of 100 monkeys. It so happened that I was to write my first year examination in English, and I was not very well prepared. I was relying on some guesswork prepared by a teacher. Bhagwan appeared in my dream and asked me to study the entire syllabus. However, in dream itself, I appeared in the exam and my result came and I got 6 marks out of 100. Next morning when I got up, I shared this dream with my mother and I decided to prepare the entire syllabus. When I went to write the exam, to my shock, I found that out of this guesswork which I was earlier preparing, only 15 marks questions had appeared, which means out of 15, how much would one get? At the best 6 marks. So this is how Bhagwan protects us. This is how Bhagwan saves us. Because he wants us to do one thing, that if we remember his name, just by uttering the name Sai, Sai and Sai, all our problems, all our difficulties can be taken care of. This is one promise about which all of us are aware and about which all of us have hundreds and thousands of experiences to share. So in this ocean of Swami's love, all we need to do is just to dive and derive the water of joy, and that is Swami's name with us. I remember once when I had joined the Sri Sathya Sai Institute in 1986 as a student of Bhagwan. Again, during those days, life was not very easy. The students were required to follow very strict discipline of sleeping on floors, not having any hot water. Early morning, we were supposed to serve breakfast before going to the institute. One fine morning, we found there was no water, due to which the breakfast could not be prepared. So immediately, all of us, the hostel students, lined up with our buckets, and on the hilltop we had a tank and we started fetching water. Now this resulted in the delay of serving of the breakfast. Our college was to start at 7:30 a.m. So we were 28 boys. We told our half of them, 14 of the boys, that you rush to the class, we will join you shortly. And we were delayed by about 15 to 17 minutes. So after serving the breakfast, we quickly rushed to the classroom. And by the time we were about to enter, the dean who was holding our class, he came angrily, closed down the door and denied entry to all of us in the classroom. That you are late by 15 minutes, you are not allowed to enter my class. We tried to reason out with him, but we were unsuccessful. During the course of the day, we were served notices that why should we not be marked absent for 1 full week for coming late to the class. Suddenly from nowhere, the lawyer in me woke up. I thought that this was very unjustified and I should protest against this. But not knowing what to do, by the time it was evening, I decided to quit and go back to Chandigarh. I packed my luggage and decided that hereinafter I will not stay here. Knowing my plans, one of my classmates who had previously been at Bhagwan's Institute, he took me to the top floor of the hostel and asked me one question. He said, Amar, why have you come here? Have you come here for degree or you have come here for Bhagwan? And then one thing which he told me and which I have not forgotten till today, he says this Bhagwan is so special, but you have to create a relation with him. You will have to, on your own, make efforts and make a relationship with him. And once you create that relation, he will never ever leave you. Remember only one thing, that you have not come here for education. You have come here for sight. So all of us here today, in whatever form, in whatever role, in whatever task which we are undertaking, we must realize that we are here only for the sake of sight. That is our gift also. Because being contemporaries of Sri Sathya Sai, having been blessed by him, Bhagwan is the one who is telling us day in and day out that you simply go, take these steps, and then you will see how my grace will take over, how I would be the one who will be running the whole show. And once he runs the show, what he does is that he puts lot of acclaim on our name. So for the entire work which he himself is undertaking, the reward which he gives us is that the acclaim is given to our name. As I told you, this is how Bhagwan keeps telling us or keeps testing us also. Sometimes this snake of ego rises or raises its hood in our mind. So we should all be guarded against that these so-called worldly achievements or these so-called successes, they are not due to our efforts. They are because Bhagwan has touched us. And therefore, everything in our life is a gift of sight to us. But Bhagwan also gives us one assurance, that once I have come in your lives, nothing can happen to you. I will protect you from each and every harm. I will take care of your lives, and you will not come to any difficulty at any time, because all you have to do is just utter words Sai and Sai. That's all. Once it so happened that I was busy in the courts, and all of a sudden I received a call on my cell phone from my wife informing me that my 5-year-old daughter had fallen from the roof. I was just taken aback. I had nothing else in my name, on my lips, except Sai name, telling Sai Raksha, Sai Raksha, Sai Raksha. And I was driving my car and driving back home. Barely 10 minutes journey from court to my house was so difficult, but I was only saying Sai Ram, Sai Ram. As I reached my house, I saw my mother and my wife holding my daughter in their hands. And immediately they all jumped into the car. And I asked one question, where to go? As I ask this question, my daughter opened her eyes and tells me, Papa, I am fine. I have no pain. I don't want to go anywhere. These words were not uttered by her, in fact. They were uttered by Swami through her, assuring me that everything was under control. Because when Swami is with us, he will make sure that all our troubles, they are just blown away with one smile, with one glance of Swami. Similarly, once it so happened that I was in Parthi, I received a letter from my mother telling me that on one day my father had fallen on the floor and she immediately shouted Sai Ram, Sai Ram, and poured water in his mouth, but it came out. Then she rushed and brought vibhuti which Swami had given her in one of the interviews. And after a while, my father was revived. So she in the letter tells me to write a letter and thank Swami. After having read her letter, I immediately wrote a letter to Swami, put it in my pocket, went for darshans in the evening. Somehow that day, I did not get a chance to sit in the front. I was sitting somewhere at the back. But that day, Swami started his darshans from the last line and immediately walked up to me. As he came to me, he uttered in Hindi, मैं गया था, मैं चंडीगढ़ गया था. I was not prepared to listen to these words of Swami and I did not understand what Swami was telling. He came and told me, मैं चंडीगढ़ गया था, तुम्हारा फादर को रिवाइव किया. And then it dawned upon me what he exactly was telling me. And he narrated the entire incident to me, how my mother had poured water and everything. And after telling me the entire incident, he looked at me, smiled at me, and suddenly looked towards my pocket and asked me, "Kya re, thanks karta hai?" That letter was still in my pocket. He had already read it. And then by the time I took out that letter, he said, I only want you to remember one thing. I'm always with you. That is the magnitude of Bhagwan's love. We don't even have to believe it that it is always with us. During my childhood, I know another story that unfolded in front of my eyes. I was still very young. There was a class teacher of mine who narrated this story to me, which later on was recorded by Sri Kasturi ji in his very famous book, Loving God. There was one teacher serving in Jammu school, in Army school, Jammu. She did not report for her duty for many days. And after remaining absent from duties, when she went to the school, her commanding officer, a very strict disciplinarian, one Colonel Bhosle, asked her as to why she had been absent. And she, with tears in her eyes, tells him that, "Sir, I had gone to Army Hospital in Chandigarh, where I have been diagnosed cancer. And doctors have not given me enough time." Now this gentleman, it was those 1970s, he tells her that, "Ma'am, I know there is one Sai Baba in South. If you go to him and he tells you your cancer is cancelled, then your cancer will be cancelled. Why don't you go to him? So she, along with her sister, who was also a teacher, both of them made inquiries, changed many trains, and in extreme hot weather, they reached Puttaparthi during those days, only to discover that Bhagwan was physically not there. He had come to Chennai to address a public meeting. So one kind driver, bus driver, tells them that I can drop you to that place next morning where Bhagwan would be giving his darshans and discourse. So during those days, probably Bhagwan used to come in Abbotsbury Park, and around that, those two ladies were dropped by Bhagwan. They narrated that they saw streams of cars parked there, and as they entered that park where Bhagwan was giving darshans, they saw a sea of humanity having converged there for Bhagwan's darshans. And at a distant place, they saw an orange dot whom they imagined Bhagwan. He was that far physically from them. There was a loudspeaker on which Bhagwan was delivering his discourse. Now these ladies had been traveling for 4 or 5 or 6 days, and by this time their patience ran out. Both of them kneeled on the ground, bowed to Swami and said, Swami, we have come to you all the way from Chandigarh. We pay our respect to you, and now it is left to you. We are going back from here. They were extremely dejected that they did not imagine that Swami will be giving darshans amidst such a large number of people. As they turned away, they noticed a Sevadal member running towards them and asking, who are Chandigarh sisters? Hearing their name, they turned towards him and they said that we are Chandigarh sisters. And then he comes closer, hands over several packets of vibhuti and a glass of water, mixes vibhuti in the water and says, Bhagwan has asked me to give vibhuti to teacher sister and has asked me to convey you that your cancer is cancelled. Now these two ladies were taken aback. So this lady immediately takes water mixed with vibhuti, offers her pranams to Bhagwan once again. They kneel down. Some packets of vibhuti were there in their hands. As they were turning away, this man comes running again and stuffs more packets of vibhuti in their hand by saying that this vibhuti is for Shivaji. With tears in their eyes, these ladies go back to their place. This lady examines herself from the doctors who a few days back had diagnosed incurable cancer. These doctors were amazed to say that there is no cancer. Now this lady appears before her commanding officer in Jammu school, thanking him that, sir, you sent me to the right place. My cancer has been cured. Now this gentleman also was not a devotee of Bhagwan in so as to say. So this Colonel Bhosle wanted to hear everything in great detail. And these two ladies explained to him that how we went to Parthi and what all happened to them. And then he asked this lady, "Madam, can I see that vibhuti?" So she takes out this vibhuti packet from her purse. When he says, "Madam, can I get this vibhuti from you?" So she says, "Why not? You can get few packets from me," because this Sevadal fellow returned back to me and handed me some more packets of vibhuti by saying, "These are for Shivaji, and I do not know any person by name Shivaji." Suddenly that man announces, "I am Colonel Shivaji Bhosle." That is the love and reach of Swami. He knows where to reach, how to bind people, how to reach them. So that is why I say we have to believe that He is always with us. He is always taking care of us.
ओम जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक पति महेश्वरा ओम जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका आपदान्धवा ॐ जय जगदीश हरे मातपिता गुरुदैवमु मरियन्तयु नीवे स्वामी मरियन्तयु नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नागेन्द्रशयन ॐ जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी हो साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल आरती अंधुको मंगल आरती अंधुको मंगल गिरिधारी ओम
शान्ति 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 समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।